Hey, it's Aaron Murray with the Players Lounge, and big shout out to the Mark for letting us shoot another great episode here. Make sure you go to themarkathens.com to check them out. They got all the best facilities, rooms. They got like racquetball here. They got a golf simulator. So if I was back in college, my butt would be here because of that golf simulator. Tons of study spaces as well. So go check them out. Once again, themarkathens.com. A great guest today, Matthew Hibbs, joined me from the Classic City Collective, the busiest man in Athens beside Kirby Smart right now, trying to get all these kids paid and figured out and building their future for success after they leave the University of Georgia. Matt, thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's always changing, right? Every time we talk, something new has happened, something new we're working on. So it's fun, it's exciting, that's why we're doing it. But yeah, busy
and I feel like every time that there's some headline in the NIL space, your name is a part of it. So talk to me a little bit about the seven main collectives that are kind of working together and kind of how that started.
Yeah, so it kind of started from the trip to DC.
Yep.
I guess, what was that, a month and a half? I'm losing track of days.
Yeah.
But it was a while ago. And, we were up there with some collectives. Ole Miss and Tennessee were there. And
Yep.
we all started talking about, we have similar issues.
Yeah.
Like, if we all fight them separately, it's probably not going to work out well for collectives in the long run. And also, we provide a great perspective on NIL.
Yep.
And it was bothering us that every time an article came out that's like the stakeholders of NIL are talking about what the future needs to be, but there was never collective representation there. Yep. And some studies or reports say that 80% of NIL dollars are coming from collectives. Yep. And the fact that nobody was asking our opinion on this, it bothered us. Yeah. So we wanted to get together, and we have 7 founding collectives, kind of like-minded, have similar issues. Yep. It's the 3 that I mentioned, and then Michigan, Penn State, USC, Florida State.
Nice.
So it's a good group. We're trying to get some from all across the country, different perspectives, different viewpoints. But I think we bring a lot to the conversation.
Yeah. What is the biggest struggle for you, not just the NIL space, but for you guys, when you guys sit down in the room and you have to pick 1 to 3 things that you're struggling with today?
Yeah, I mean, for us at Georgia with the Classic City Collective, I think it's the perception of NIL. Yep. For a lot of people. They really can't wrap their head around kind of why we need to be doing this. Yep. And then kind of to piggyback on that, it's our success, yep. which I think a lot of people would think the opposite. Yep. Like, I mean, you guys are back-to-back champions in football. Like, that should be easy to raise money. But it's really not. The amount of times that I've heard, why do we need to do this? We're already winning. Yep. We're already getting the number 1 and 2 recruiting class in the country. And it's more than that. It's taking care of the athletes that are here.
Yes.
And that's the individual conversation that we have to have. So it's not as easy as just putting out a post like some places and, money's coming in. Yep. It's a much more hands-on process for us.
I know a lot of people on the outside that look into this NIL world and they see the dollars being funneled to NIL now. Well, they say, well, where's that money going to the facilities? Where's the money going to Georgia, for example, the new track stadium or the new practice fields or the new this? Like, has there ever been any kind of headbutting with that from your perspective?
No, there really hasn't. And I think we were lucky here where a lot of the massive facility projects were already completed prior to NIL starting. And the ones that are getting ready to start, they had already finished their funding phase,
Gotcha.
For the most part.
Yep.
So it hasn't really been an issue because this is just another option for donors now.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I've always thought this was important. I would like to contribute above and beyond what I'm doing for, McGill or Hedges or whatever that may be. So there really hasn't been a ton of conflict. Yeah. And we work really well with the Bulldog Club and the administration. So it's been pretty good so far.
For a school that's not as well positioned as Georgia, like I said, most of the projects are complete. Like the football is done. But for other schools that maybe have areas where they need to improve those aspects, have you felt or seen or heard any school where there is some sort of colliding when it comes to that, the fundraising aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few stories out there, but I think every collective, and this is another reason why we made this group, is starting to explore alternative revenue streams. Yep. I think everyone's starting to realize that the donor model, while it's great, it's never going to be 100% of your dollars. Yep. And there's going to be donor fatigue. I mean, everyone's already seeing it.
Yes.
So there has to be other streams of revenue.
Yep.
So I think people are looking at content, people are looking at, rev share agreements with companies.
Yep.
everything like that, which is easing the burden on donors.
I think the other hard part for me when it comes to NIL now is, or not me, just for in general, because I love the fact that these kids are, I'm just more jealous than anything, is the transfer. And I think that's a hard, because a company may want to, and that's sort of the hard part with college football anyway, because most of these kids are 3, 4, maybe 5 years, so the lifespan's quick. It's not like the NFL where, man, I can represent Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, and I kind of have that brand for a long time. It's already a quick deal, where I feel like a lot of these deals are more localized than the NFL, so they're local to Athens or Tuscaloosa or Knoxville. The NIL or the transfer portal, to me, is kind of ruining more opportunities when it comes to NIL, because there's a donor that said, man, I just donated X amount of dollars and that quarterback left, or a company saying that quarterback left, or that whatever position it is. How big of an issue is that long term?
So I think it is an issue with a business who is interested in partnering with one athlete.
Yep.
But what we've seen is this shift to businesses understanding that they would partner with the collective, and they would then partner with all of the athletes, or with 20 athletes.
Yep.
I think a lot of what we're trying to do now is 30 to 60 second content clips on our website where sponsors and advertisers are overlaid with that, where it doesn't really matter which athlete is in that graphic. They're still getting the benefit of the eyeballs of the Georgia fan. And ultimately that's what they want. That's what they're seeking, is the Georgia fan base, and seeing that. So if the D lineman transfers or the corner transfers, then you still have other athletes in there. So that's really the sustainable aspect of this, is selling it more on the whole as opposed to the individual.
So obviously rules are cannot interfere with kids in high school. How does it differ for some of these rules when it does come to the portal? Not someone leaving, say, Georgia or university, but someone that is possibly looking to come to Georgia. How can you guys get involved, and how does that affect your job?
Yeah, we can't. As a collective, we are considered a booster, just like any other booster. So we can't be involved in recruiting. So we can't sit down with the kid and have those conversations where, it would be nice to be able to explain NIL to some people, but I understand why the rule is there, because I don't think a lot of people who are running collectives necessarily understand that line between explaining and promising. So I understand it. It's tough sometimes, but that's the rule. And
so what do you find is the most difficult part of the job when it comes to a misconception out there of what you guys can and can't do, or what you guys are for and not for when it comes to the Classic City Collective?
Yeah, I think there's a huge misconception that we are just handing out money and there's nothing on the back end. There's no deal, there's no activation, and there's no learning. Like, a lot of people don't know that we have a partnership with Truist, and that's providing financial education for these guys, which I wish I had when I was 18 or 19 years old. I didn't know anything about money. So I think that's been massively beneficial. And that's stuff that a lot of people don't understand. They think that we're just wiring money left and right, and that's it. And I also think,
say good luck, kid, with the X amount of dollars.
Figure it out. But that's not the case. And I think a lot of people think this is just about recruiting. Like, this is, hey, we're building up this war chest and we're just going to have it here to entice recruits to come. I mean, with a football roster capable of winning national championships, you have to have second and third string players who are capable of coming into that rotation. Well, what does that mean? You have to take care of them. Take care of them while they're here, because other schools, they'll come for them. So the bulk of what we do, 98% of what we do is solely focused on our team and the guys that are on our campus. Now, we need to build a reserve so we have it there, because we don't know what the next signing class is going to look like. But we are only focused on our players and making sure they are taken care of so they don't want to leave.
What about other sports? I mean, because obviously, if I'm giving, I would say the majority of donors to the collective want their money funneled to football. Everyone's riding the high right now, back-to-back national championships. Let's keep the party going. But you as a collective, obviously, you want to make sure that every athlete on this campus can be a part of what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is for every single athlete to be able to take advantage of the collective. And, we have empowered the donors to, if you love softball, I want you to earmark your money for softball. So you're 100% sure that's where it's going. And if there's not a need for it right now, it will sit there. It's not going to be pulled for any other sport.
Yep.
So we've set it up that way where there's a different account for every sport.
Yep.
So that if a donor loves baseball, loves track, like that's where their money's going to go. And it's going to be used to take care of that roster.
So as soon as I saw this article, obviously, once again, go back to what I said earlier, it feels like every time I see an NIL article out there on some website, you're in there and did a great job with this one. Looking for alternative ways to create sustainability, because like you alluded to, I think a lot of people's worry is the donor's dollar is going to dry up. Man, I'm sick of donating X amount of dollars. We just went 5 and 7. I'll give half the money. Like, it's just not sustainable. You're finding other ways. One way to do that, which is long overdue, is some sort of TV revenue split where all these massive deals with Fox and NBC and ESPN and et cetera, some of that money could essentially be sent to the collective as a third party to then give to the student athletes. How was that brought up and how would that work? Just I'll let you go into better details about the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think it was a culmination of looking at everyone's complaints.
Yep.
There are people who say, oh, we cannot have them be employees, because you're dropping 6 sports or whatever the argument is. There are people who say, like, the collectives are rogue organizations. They're never following rules. You can't control them.
Yep.
And then, people that say true NIL is TV revenue, because that is where the majority of their value comes from, is the entertainment value.
Yep.
So, we started to think as a group, like, if we were to manage some portion of this money, then it would remove the employee argument. Because once the distribution comes from the TV network to the conference and then to the school, if the school distributes it, obviously that's an employee, right? So we're thinking if we have it 1 step removed or even 2, look, there are holes in this, I get it, but we're here to just talk about it, right? If it's removed before the school, then we can avoid this employee status, which is the number one goal, because we want to preserve college athletics as a whole, not just football, right? College athletics. So that was the first thing. The second thing is if the school designates an NIL entity, so in our case, Classic City Collective, then now we're tied in to this ecosystem. Now we have a stake in the game. Now we have signed to follow whatever rules we've all agreed on, whether that's recruiting, tampering, whatever it is, okay? Because we stand to lose that preferred status and the money right, if we don't. And I keep saying this, it's like with the NCAA, it's always been a penalty if you don't follow the rules, but not an incentive if you do.
Yes.
The only incentive is you're a good person, you want to follow the rules, whatever. But if we're dealing with majority of people who've never worked in this framework, people who run collectives are usually business people, maybe fans. They've never worked in the rules compliancy, world. So the incentive-based structure is going to stop a lot of the enforcement because look, if there's a rule out there that says you can't recruit, you're going to think twice about recruiting if you stand to lose $5-10 million in the game. So we think that is an attractive proposition for the NCAA, for conference commissioners, and for ADs. But really our whole point is we are very well positioned to manage this money because we're already doing it. And this is a dip your toe in the water type of deal with revenue share. So like I said in the article, it's not that we have the solution. Here you go. Let's implement it right now. There are problems with it. There are holes. We just want to start the conversation because no one else is starting the conversation. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about what we should do, but there's no real solutions. So why not us?
There's just so much money in TV going to these universities where I think then the conversation is, well, the schools now need that because of, once again, being a part of the circle, they're not getting as much because of the whole donor situation. So I'm just glad the conversations are being had, because it is a lot of money. I would think $80+ million to each SEC school with this new contract.
It's a big chunk. Yeah,
it's a big chunk.
But to that point that you just said about like we need that money. By let's say we get $5 million. That's $5 million we're not asking donors for. So that goes back into the pot.
But
you can always raise money above that.
Oh yeah, you can always.
And then that's.
But will that cure? Say this does happen, which would be phenomenal. Say each collective at each Power 5 university gets X percentage of a TV revenue deal. The kids all then whatever you guys want to figure out from there. Would that help stop tampering? Because tampering has always been around college sports. Like we've all have felt it or seen it or heard about it one way or the other. Would this slow it down, or would that still be going on behind the scenes? Even if a donor knew that, hey, Each kid on the football team is going to make $100,000 from Fox or from the TV revenue. Would tampering still go on behind the scenes?
I don't know if anything will ever stop tampering or stop recruiting inducements. But if there is an incentive to not do that, then I think it will slow it down dramatically. I think because right now, what's the penalty? Like, I mean, I can.
Can the NCAA really do anything? Is the question.
I mean, they haven't. So I don't know.
Well, the problem is all these state laws too are coming and saying our laws are ahead of the NCAA essentially, and it just kind of is.
I think this is a path to a lot of things. Sustainability. It's a path to getting all on the same page. It's a path to consistency. I just think that if we could all circle around one common objective, which is avoiding employee status and how that needs to work, then let's start there. Let's just start there, and we don't have to figure out the entire thing right now. Let's just at least get one solution.
So if you had a crystal ball, and we're looking, it's 2023, 2025, we'll just go 2 years from now, because I feel like this is it's a rapid changing. College football is changing. The conferences are changing. The playoff landscape is changing. 2025, 2026. So the next 2 or 3 years, what is your anticipation for what this world looks like?
Yeah, I think it's a version of what we just talked about. You know, I think that the collectives become more of a third-party entity. They're more legitimized. They're fully staffed, and they are managing a portion of this rev share agreement. You know, there will be other third-party entities involved, like whether that be a players' union, whether that be anything. But I think the collectives, or whatever that new term is in 2 years, I think they'll be heavily involved in distributing this money. And there'll be Title IX components to that, which is great. There should be. Another thing we got to figure out, right? But I think they'll be heavily involved, and there'll be one entity, kind of like the licensing or the Learfields of the world. You know, things like that. I think that's where we get to, because look, NIL is not going away.
No.
I think a lot of people want to just believe that, it'll just disappear one day. It's not, and it shouldn't. But it does need, the edges need to be.
It needs to be organized.
It needs to be organized.
And to me, it feels like what college football needs in general is they just need one organization that focuses on, say, football. That your sole job is, how do we make college football great?
I mean, you and I both know football is a massive animal.
Massive.
It is huge. And for one organization,
it pays for almost everything.
It does.
Yeah.
And for one organization, the NCAA, to think that they can manage college football at every level, and in addition to all the other sports that they manage, that's too big. It's too big for anybody. They do a phenomenal job at managing the 90%. They do. But the 10%, they just have different needs. So there'll be a day where it's probably a little split. I'm not saying fully detached, but a little split.
Which I'm fine with. It's too big, making too much money, too much momentum, and it's also becoming year-round.
It is.
It is. As someone that's in the reporter world nowadays, it's great because there's something to talk about college sports, college football.
All the time.
365.
All the time.
365. Well, Hibbs, man, we appreciate you jumping on with us today and shedding some light into the whole NIL space and what really is going on behind the scenes. But obviously, before I let you go, you know, we'll link it below, so you'll get the link below. Easily click to get to their website, but just, you know, kind of let us know what's going on, how people can help out going forward. Yeah, ClassicCityCollective.com. That's the best way. You can join the 21 Club, $21 a month, $42 a month. It truly makes a difference. A lot of people don't think it does. It really, really does. 90,000 people in the stadium. They jump in. That's a big difference. Let's do the math, right? And then all socials, Classic City CLTV. You can kind of keep up with what we're doing. Giveaways. We started doing a ton of giveaways, ton of autographed memorabilia. So that's a great way to get involved too. Nice. All right, make sure you go check them out, and make sure you check us out again next week. Lots of great content as football season is finally here. The boys are practicing and get ready for a great 2023 season.